What's up, everybody? Welcome back to British English Pod with me, Lewis. And how's it going? How's life? What's new? I hope you're doing really, really well. In my case, I've just had lunch and I was quite healthy, but I was only planning on having half of this food. But in the end, I was watching a video, I was eating, and I was thinking, I've still got a bit of space to fill up. I still need to eat a little bit more. So I started off with some carrots that I cut up into little pieces and a pack of hummus, which is, the classic puree of chickpeas and stuff like that. And it's a good option because it's really cheap, it's pretty healthy, and I don't need to prepare anything. So it's always a really good go-to lunch that I make myself every single week because it costs me like €2 or €3 and I don't need to wash up and I don't need to do anything. It's perfect. But then I also had a little packet of like a couscous salad. And after I had the hummus and carrots, I was weighing up whether to stop eating or not. And in the end, I thought, I'm still a little bit peckish. I'm still a little bit hungry. So I had this couscous salad as well. And now I'm full. And usually, if I eat a lot for lunch, even if it is healthy food, I need some energy. I need a nice pick-me-up, which is why I made myself a little espresso as well. And hopefully, this will give me some energy to record this podcast. But let me know, whereabouts are you in the world? And what have you had for lunch? Or what are you going to have for lunch if it's early where you are? And let me have a sip of this espresso because I think I need a pick-me-up, as I said. I've mentioned this before, but coffee is just amazing, isn't it? It's so tasty. It gives you energy through the caffeine, and you can have it first thing in the morning. You can have it in the middle of the morning, maybe after lunch, as I'm having it now. And then you also have these strange people, usually Italians, who have an espresso after dinner, at least if they go out for a meal, which I've never been able to get my head around. Because for me, if you have coffee, then you can't sleep. So the fact that people will finish dinner at maybe 10 o'clock and have a coffee and then go straight to sleep and sleep through the night is crazy. If you are one of these people, let me know. How do you do it? Doesn't the caffeine affect you? And obviously, you can have a decaf, which is decaffeinated coffee, but that's not usually the case when people have an espresso. So yeah, what's the secret? All right, I'm going to down the rest of my espresso, and then we're going to get started really with the podcast. Because this week, as I mentioned at the end of the podcast last week, our focus is all about summer. I mean, summer, for many people, is their favorite season in the year. But everybody's different, and it depends whereabouts in the world you come from and whereabouts you live. Because summer can be amazing because you have long days, you have bright days, you can be on holiday, and it's sunny all the time. Or maybe if you're from a really hot place, it might just be unbearable and you won't be able to handle the weather in summer because it just gets too hot. So, knowing that my audience is all over the world, I'm curious. Is summer your favorite season as well? Because summer is my favorite season if we're thinking about summer in the UK or in Belgium. But if we're talking about summer in Spain, for example, I don't know if it's my favorite because I don't think I can handle the heat very well. And I like to be by the beach. I like to sunbathe. I like to get a tan. And I enjoy it when it's nice and warm in the evenings. But what I don't like is when I can't sleep at night because it's too hot. And another thing that I don't like is just walking around and being sweaty all the time. So yeah, it depends. It depends on how intense the summer is where you are. All right, enough messing around and let me finish my espresso. Ah, so good. Okay, coffee, done. Summer, summer, summer. So first, let me tell you about my summer this year. And also I'll compare it with last year. Why not? Because in fact, I remember that this time last year, I also recorded another video which was related to summer. And I think I taught some expressions related to summer and phrasal verbs. And then I told you about my plans. Because last year I went to Ibiza, with my girlfriend. And after that, we went to the usual Cadiz in Spain, the south of Spain, which is just south of Seville. And we stayed there for a few weeks. So it was a good summer, but it was quite a cheap summer, let's say, because we got cheap flights to Ibiza and the accommodation wasn't as expensive as we expected. And we didn't really travel that much. That said, I did have a great time. And then if I think about the previous summer, I remember we went to Albania. And Albania was beautiful, and now it's becoming a much more touristic destination. It was really good, it was different, we had a good time, but I wouldn't say it's the best place to go in summer. Spain, for me, is probably number one, and that's why I believe it is the most visited country in the world. And one of the big reasons for this is the beach culture. And I saw an Italian on Instagram posting about this and making this comparison because in Italy, a lot of the beaches are private and you need to pay for your umbrella and everything. And if you don't do this, you're not really allowed to go on the beach. So it becomes unaffordable and really expensive to have a beach day. Whereas in Spain, all of the beaches are public. There are some exceptions in terms of like beach clubs, but you can always find plenty of beaches which are public. You take your towel, your own umbrella, whatever you want, and then you can set yourself up for the rest of the day. And this makes it so much nicer because there's nothing worse than feeling like you are a walking cash machine, a walking ATM. And when considering tourism, a lot of the hospitality sector and the tourist sector of economies around the world look at tourists and they think, okay, how can I make as much money on their behalf? How can I basically try to squeeze out as much cash as possible from these tourists? And I remember that I felt like that when we were in Albania a couple of years ago as well. Because, again, I had to pay for the umbrella, I had to pay for everything, and I might sound like a broken record, like I'm repeating myself with this, but I don't want to feel like I'm being ripped off. I don't want to feel like I have to pay for absolutely everything. It's not nice. Not nice at all. But anyway, I don't want to complain too much. because this is supposed to be a nice, friendly, happy podcast all about summer. And I bet you are excited about summer. Usually, people have holidays in summer. In many countries around the world, you are kind of encouraged to take a lot of your holidays in summer because the economy isn't as active, companies aren't as active, there's less business to be done. So, at least with Spanish companies, they have this thing where people work only in the mornings. Let's say it's an intensive schedule where people will work a lot more during the morning in summer and wake up maybe an hour or an hour and a half earlier, because then in the evening and in the afternoon, it's very hot. In a similar level, bosses and companies usually tell workers that they should take 2 weeks of holiday in August because lots of things just shut down because everybody goes on holiday. That's not quite the same in the United Kingdom. Of course, if you have children and you want to go on holiday with your children, you kind of have to do it during the summer holidays, the school holidays, which means that prices rise in terms of hotels and flights in particular. But a lot of British companies don't really tell you that you have to take holidays in August. You can take holidays whenever you want. And one of the reasons for this is that August isn't always the best month in terms of having a heat wave and guaranteed sunny weather. And this is the big issue with summer in the UK, or at least summer weather in the UK, because you can't organize anything knowing that the weather is going to be guaranteed, that the weather is going to be sunny and bright and it's not going to rain. Because our weather changes quite a lot, and it's very similar in Belgium. I'm recording this after getting a bit of a tan at the weekend and looking a little bit brown, but this morning I woke up and it was pissing it down. It was raining cats and dogs. And now the sun is just coming out. So this can be a little bit frustrating. If you're trying to organize a barbecue at your house and you're doing it in summer in the UK, the weather will probably be good, but there's no guarantee. And then if you wake up on the day of this barbecue that you've organized and you see it's cloudy, it's stormy, it's raining, you think, oh, typical English weather. The barbecue is ruined. Now everybody's going to have to come round and we'll all be inside. I'll be making the burgers in the oven. That's not a barbecue, is it? So, does this happen in your country? Is summer good, but kind of unguaranteed in terms of good weather and sun? Because that's what I've always experienced in England. And I usually spend a week or two in England in August. But I also spend a couple of weeks in England around Easter. And maybe I'm imagining it, but it feels to me like the weather is better around Easter than it is at the end of summer in August. And that doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, comparing this with Spain, where I lived in the past, in Seville, it's too hot in summer. So you need to escape. You need to get out of there. So maybe summer is not the best season in Spain, or at least in the south of Spain. And I've asked a lot of students this, and many of them will tell me that spring is their favorite season. And I understand why people might say this, because the days are getting longer. It feels like summer is approaching, whilst you're saying goodbye to the cold weather and short, dark days of winter, and you're looking ahead to holidays, the beach, having drinks on the beach with your toes and your feet in the sand. This is one of these common little pleasant moments that we can appreciate the little things. When you're having a drink at sunset, looking out across the horizon, your feet are in the sand. It's beautiful and relaxing. But with summer, there are also some downsides that I haven't covered yet. And one of them is bugs. Yes, creepy crawlies, insects. And I'm thinking and imagining right now a disgusting, disgusting insect. And they are la cucaracha, ya no puede caminar. Da, 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 da. Yes, cockroaches. Cockroaches. Ugh, they're horrible. So let me tell you a little story about cockroaches in summer. And again, I'm going to reference Cádiz, the place where I go and spend a lot of my summer with my partner, because when we first started dating and I went to her beach house for the first time, and it was just for two of us, her parents hadn't been for a few weeks, and she had warned me beforehand and said, Lewis, by the way, by the beach, sometimes you'll see some cockroaches. So what I was imagining was just like one or two cockroaches outside, not inside. Inside is for people, obviously. But to my surprise, to my shock, to my horror, we put the key in the lock, opened the door, and then pulled it towards us. And as I was pulling it open, I almost wanted to vomit and throw up because of the smell. I don't know if you ever smelt dead cockroaches, but it is disgusting. It's horrible. So as we were opening the door, I could smell, and I had to cover my nostrils so I wouldn't be able to breathe it in too much. But I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. What is that? And then I saw it. There were, I want to say, 30, maybe 40 cockroaches, the majority of which were dead, because there must have been some kind of insecticide or insect repellent on the floor. But you know cockroaches, when they're dead and they've got the shell, their back on the floor, and their little thin legs pointing upwards. And there were so many of them. And she was shocked, but not as shocked as me. And I was like, what the hell is this place? We need to leave as soon as possible. Let's get out of here. But we were arriving on the Friday. We had planned to stay until the Sunday before going back to Seville to work. So we had to pluck up the courage and get down to work and get on with the task at hand, which was to sweep up these cockroaches, put them in the bin, take the rubbish out, and for the few cockroaches that were still alive, well, we had to kill them as well. So I'd grab my flip-flops and follow them around and try to hit them and kill them. And they say that when you kill a cockroach, it gives birth. And then it will have more babies. I don't know if that's just an urban myth, but that idea sends shivers down my spine. And I don't want you to accuse me of being a murderer for killing cockroaches. Because cockroaches are like the last thing that would survive on planet Earth if there was a nuclear war. All of us would perish. We would all die. And I guarantee cockroaches and rats would be scurrying around the cities. They would become the leaders of the world. Now, I apologize if you are afraid of cockroaches, but I just remembered it. I had the image stuck in my brain, and I thought I had to share it with you. Now, have you ever experienced anything similar? Because in exotic countries, in summer, you can have horrible bugs. And this is one of the worst things about summer. Bugs, excessive heat, places that are overcrowded because of tourism. But bugs are the number one annoying thing. And it's not just cockroaches. It's also mosquitoes. You know, it's horrible having mosquito bites, and then the bites are really itching, so you've got to scratch them, and you've got to try to remember to spray on some insect repellent. But it's, again, inevitable. Mosquitoes are gonna bite you. And mosquitoes are like, I think, the most dangerous animal in the world because they carry a lot of horrible, deadly diseases. Usually, that's not the case in the majority of Europe, but around the world, mosquitoes are one of the biggest killers that exist. But I don't mind it so much if I'm outside, because I know it's going to happen and it is what it is. But what I can be very precious about is my sleep. I mentioned it earlier, that I can't have an espresso just before I go to bed, because then I won't sleep. Well, another thing that will disturb me in the middle of the night when I'm lying down in bed is just when I'm falling asleep, or maybe I'm already dreaming. And then I just hear the zzz. I'm like, oh no, there's a mosquito. So I can't just stay still and relax because I know it's going to annoy me more. So in that case, I'll wake up. I'll try not to move too quickly because that will make the mosquito scared and it'll fly away. So I try to wake up as slowly as possible and I try to find the mosquito. Maybe I'll grab my phone and I'll put on, my torch and I'll be looking. I'll be looking for the mosquito. And if I see it, I'll do the typical thing, which is get my hand ready, try not to move, and then once I've spotted the mosquito and it's not moving, I'll try to smash it and destroy it. But 9 times out of 10, it'll just fly away before I'm able to squash it. And over and over and over again. And my night is ruined, which ruins the next day because I won't have slept at all. So maybe I don't actually like summer so much. Because I'm a chicken and I'm afraid of insects. But anyway, let's discuss some more questions now. And I hope you enjoyed those little stories. They came to mind and I thought I had to share them with you. So bugs. Terrible. All right. Some generic questions. Number 1. What's your perfect summer day from start to finish? Well, my perfect summer day would be to wake up at maybe 9-ish. And then I can go for a walk either with my girlfriend or on my own, listening to a podcast. If it's not too hot, I might go for a run, but usually just a walk to get myself moving, to wake up. I'll have already had a coffee before that, but there will be times when I might go for a walk, listen to music, buy a coffee on the way, and carry on walking. So I like to walk first thing in the morning. But another thing that I could do is take my swimming shorts and maybe a light towel and go for a walk, but then get to the beach, walk along the beach, and if possible, I'll go for a quick dip, a quick swim. Whilst I'm on my walk, whilst I'm listening to different stuff, drop off my things, go for a little swim, and this is really revitalizing. And I think it makes you feel more refreshed. And it's a great combination and a great way to start your day. All of this before having any actual breakfast, because you might know by now that I usually fast and I try not to have breakfast. I'm not that hungry, and I think fasting's good for you as well. So, yeah, I wake up, I listen to music or a podcast on my walk, and then I'll stop off for a quick swim in the sea, dry off a little bit, and continue my walk. Hopefully, I have time and I can wait until my swimming shorts can dry properly, because if not, there's always the danger that like your thighs can chafe. And to chafe is when maybe you're wearing wet clothes, and as a result, you'll have this friction between the clothes and your thighs, and it can make your skin go red, and you can have like a little rash. But yeah, after that, I'll go back and maybe even do a little bit of work. Maybe. But if it's my ideal, perfect summer day, I probably wouldn't do work. So in that case, I might stay at the beach for a little bit longer. And, well, I love eating. So the next thing would probably be to go to like a beach bar with really good food. And I'd want to have my feet in the sand. I'd want to order some beers, have some nice fresh seafood, and just chill out, be in the shade, so I'm not going to burn too much, and have a long lunch with family or friends outside, lots of food, lots of drinks, and that way I can shelter from the hottest part of the day, perhaps even with some like sprinklers on. So then I've got some high pressure water being put on me so I don't get too hot. And after that, I might go for a nap, because naps in summer are amazing. So after this long lunch, I'd go back home, I'd go for a nap for an hour, more or less. And then I think I'd chill on the sofa, watching something for maybe an hour, something like that. And then I'd probably go back out, either out for another walk or out for another drink, and again, go out for dinner. Because for me, holidays in summer is being in good hot weather, having the beach, and eating and going to restaurants. But if I don't go to a restaurant, then maybe the backup plan would be to go to the cinema. Because if it's really, really hot outside, the cinema is a place where you know it's going to be nice and cool, and they'll have the air conditioning on. And it's a pretty good summer plan if you don't want to pig out again and go out for dinner. So that's probably my perfect summer day, with maybe playing some cards and having some gin tonics after the cinema or after dinner, because it's kind of nice to do something more old fashioned, like playing card games. And it's something that I do quite a lot in summer with my girlfriend's family or with my family. If the weather's good, you can just chill and play cards. That would be my perfect summer's day. Let me know if you think it sounds like a good plan, because the way I'm describing it at the moment is making me a little bit anxious and nervous to get started with summer. Okay, number 2. Do you prefer a beach holiday or a city break in summer? And why? Well, this is a no-brainer. Without doubt, I prefer a beach holiday. Cities in summer, when it's really hot, you don't have that many options of things that you can do. You just be hot and sweaty walking around. And what I enjoy doing on city breaks is walking around. And this is exactly what you can't do comfortably if it's too hot. So for me, a beach holiday is easily the best option. It's either that or going to a countryside or the mountains, but only if you have a swimming pool. Now, number 3, what's the hottest place you've ever been to? Now, I'd say it's probably Seville, because Seville, as you may know, is regularly above 40 degrees for a few months over summer. Now, of course, this is not every single day, but it becomes normal that it's 40 degrees minimum. So Seville is probably the hottest place I've ever been. But the weather's amazing for the rest of the year. It's just for 3 or 4 months where it's too hot. But at least the temperature isn't quite as hot in the morning and the evening. It hits a peak of 40 odd degrees, but then it goes down to like 25. So yeah, I think that's the hottest place I've ever been to. I'm trying to think of anywhere else, but for consistently hot, Seville probably wins the prize. Now, number 4. How do you usually deal with extreme heat? Not well, in short. But, in fact, I deal with extreme heat very badly inside, but not outside. If I'm outside, my body kind of gets used to it and stops sweating. Maybe if it's just like a really dry heat, then I don't have any more liquid inside my body. I'm dehydrating. But if I'm inside, as I've mentioned, I can't handle the hot weather. I think I said it on a podcast a few weeks ago when we had a heat wave here in Brussels that I was struggling, really struggling to sleep, to work. My laptop was struggling as well because it was also overheating. So I'm not the best when it comes to extreme heat. And I don't know how some people do it. Those people who live in these extremely hot places, I don't know how they do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, tell me your secrets. If you are from an extremely hot country, what do you do in summer? How do you handle the heat? Do you just stay at home with air conditioning on all the time? Or are there any other tricks that you can share with us? Let me know in the comments. And number 5, what's your favorite summer food or drink? Now, my favorite summer drink is, well, beer is an option. Another option is a gin and tonic. I'm not an alcoholic, I promise. And another one, apart from that, is, well, maybe some fresh orange juice. But anything really cold is always welcome. If you offer me lemonade, Fanta, Coke, any of these fizzy drinks, if it's really cold, it's going to be fantastic. And maybe lemonade is a good option because they do say that lemonade does quench your thirst. In other words, if you are thirsty, it helps to stop that feeling. It quenches your thirst. And my favorite summer food, ice cream, is probably the best option. Like, I love ice cream. But when we really, really love ice cream is in summer because it helps to cool you down. Everybody else is having ice cream. It's amazing. But as far as savory food, another Spanish reference here, something that I love and I could have every single day in summer, and I usually do when I'm in Spain, is gazpacho. So good. And it's so healthy as well. So you don't feel guilty in any way, like you might if you have loads of ice cream. But if you have loads of gazpacho, you're not going to feel guilty. And there are slightly different recipes, but the way that I think it's best is if you have lots of good, juicy, mature tomatoes, a little bit of garlic, lots of good extra virgin olive oil. I think a small amount of vinegar as well. And that's it. Nothing else. So it's kind of like a tomato juice in some ways. And many English restaurants will explain it as cold tomato soup. And I don't really know if it's a soup. It's more like a drink than a soup. But hey, I'm no expert. But I know some people will make it with pepper or with cucumber. But for me, I think it's best if it's just with tomato, garlic, extra virgin olive oil, and some vinegar, like some apple cider vinegar, and then just blend it as much as possible to make it as smooth as possible. And then you need to put it in the fridge to make sure it's nice and cold. Add maybe a little ice cube to keep it as cold as possible, and it's so good, so tasty. So if you've never tried an authentic gazpacho this summer, you should do it, even if it's just making it yourself. There are loads of recipes out there that you'll be able to follow. Now, number 6, what's your ideal summer outfit? I think I mentioned this and answered this question last week, which is in summer, I love wearing shorts, flip-flops, and a shirt kind of like this. So it must be short sleeved and it has to be a thin material. So then it's not heavy. It doesn't make me feel too warm. I can undo some buttons if I need to. You can easily put it on when you're going to the beach. So I'd say a summer short sleeve shirt is my favorite outfit. Yeah, either that or a footy top, a football shirt. Now, number 7. Do you think summer is overrated or the best season? And why? Again, it depends whereabouts you are from. But I do think that summer is overrated. Because spring and autumn, if you are from hot countries, they're probably better because the weather isn't too hot, but it's still hot enough. So you have a nice balance here. And I believe that summer is overrated just because it's when people have holidays. But if we wanted to, we could have holidays during spring or autumn instead, and then it would be cheaper. The only constraint that we have is if you have young children who are at school. Then you have to go on holiday in summer. But for me, I could easily go at the beginning of summer or the end of summer or in autumn or spring, and you have an equally good holiday just without such high temperatures. So it's overrated, but who am I kidding? I love summer as well. I'm excited because I'm going to Spain in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm excited. Despite it being overrated, it still might be the best season. Together with spring and autumn, summer's great. I think it's only winter that people don't like as much because it's dark and depressing. But at least you've got Christmas, right? Okay. I'm going to skip number 8 and go straight to number 9. Do you enjoy sunbathing or do you prefer the shade? Now, I wouldn't say sunbathing is my favorite thing to do, but I never want to be in the shade. I have the typical obsession of most Brits where when we go on holiday or in summer, we want to try and get a tan. So, yes, we will put on sun cream, but we probably don't put on as much as we should because we're looking to get a tan. And I'm guilty of doing this. So I can't just sit there and lie down for hours on end, and I can't sunbathe all day. But I do enjoy sunbathing for like an hour, or just sunbathing by walking or by swimming. Because that way I'm, killing two birds with one stone. I'm doing exercise, I'm moving around with my shirt off, so then I'm still gonna get a tan. And just recently, I went to a festival, and of course, I wasn't sunbathing per se, but it was sunny. I wasn't in the shade, so I picked up a little bit of colour. And it feels good if you burn just a little bit, because the next day it's going to turn into tan. This is probably not healthy, and I should try to avoid getting burnt at all costs. But guilty. I do it. I'm sorry. Well, I should probably be saying sorry to my skin rather to you guys. So yeah, I enjoy sunbathing, but not the typical idea of lying down and sunbathing. I like being in the sun and getting a tan, essentially. And yeah, that's it, really. Let me go over some expressions before we finish. Because here in this PDF that I'm sharing, I have a few cool summer-related expressions. And I'm going to pick a few of them that I think you might like and appreciate. So the first expression is sun-kissed. I was just speaking about being tanned. You could also say you are sun-kissed. So right now, because of being in the sun at the weekend, I feel like I'm a little bit sun-kissed. I'm a little bit tanned. And when you go on holiday, I'm sure you return home and you think to yourself, ooh, I've got a nice tan. I'm a little bit sun-kissed. And continuing on that theme, if I don't want to repeat the word sunbathe over and over again, I could say I'm gonna catch some rays. Let's go catch some rays by the lake. Hey, it's a beautiful day. Do you fancy catching some rays? So again, to catch some rays is to sunbathe. And the next one is cool as a cucumber. Now, if you are cool as a cucumber, it means you are relaxed, you're calm, you're an easygoing person. So it's maybe not exactly related to summer, but it's a nice expression. He is cool as a cucumber. He never gets stressed. Despite the heat, she stayed cool as a cucumber. And the fourth expression is the dog days of summer. And these are the hottest days of summer. So many people in Seville will stay indoors during the dog days of summer. Or most people try to escape to the beach during the dog days of summer. And how about in full swing? So by the time you are listening to this podcast, summer will be in full swing. It will be in the peak of a period of time. Another example is by July or by August. The summer holidays are in full swing. They are ongoing, and they are really in the middle of this busy period of activity. In full swing. Perfect! I think that's plenty for today. Lots and lots of expressions and thoughts and stories related to summer, including my scary, unusual stories related to cockroaches and mosquitoes. So, if you enjoyed the stories, don't forget to like this podcast, share it with someone else who wants to immerse themselves in British English, and I thank you once again from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you're having a fantastic summer so far. And let me know, are you going on holidays this August? Have you got anything planned? If so, I'd be eager to read your plans in the comments. So thanks once again, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Bye bye.